Something unexpected happened on set that day. A child walked up to John Wayne and handed him a letter. Wayne read it and put it in his pocket. No one ever learned what the letter said. But everyone saw that Wayne had changed. Monument Valley, Utah. August 1976. The sky stretched wide and merciless, the kind of sky that makes a man feel small. A western was being filmed, one of the last great westerns, though nobody on set knew it yet. The kind with real horses, real dust, real sun that baked the crew by noon and left them wondering why anyone had ever romanticized the West. John Wayne was 69 years old. He moved slower than he used to. His lungs weren't what they'd been. But when the cameras rolled, he was still the Duke. Still the man who filled the doorway, who could say more with silence than most actors could with a page of dialogue. The scene they were shooting was simple. Wayne's character, an aging sheriff, was supposed to walk from the saloon to the sheriff's office. 20 yards? Maybe 6 lines of dialogue with a deputy. Standard coverage. They'd been at it for 2 hours because the light kept changing and the director wanted it perfect. During a break, while the crew reset for another take, a boy appeared. He was maybe 8 or 9 years old. Son of one of the grips, someone said later. He'd been sitting in the shade near the equipment trucks all morning, drawing in a notebook, bothering no one. But now he stood at the edge of the set, just beyond the taped boundary that separated the actor's world from everyone else's. He was holding an envelope. White. Standard size. Nothing remarkable about it except that his hands were shaking. The assistant director noticed him first. "Hey kid, you can't be." But Wayne had already seen him. The Duke had a way of noticing things others missed. He'd been standing near the saloon facade, sipping water from a paper cup, talking with the cinematographer about nothing important. Now his attention shifted fully to the boy. Wayne didn't wave the kid over. He just looked at him. Held his gaze. The kind of look that said, "I see you. Whatever you need, I'm listening." The boy took 3 hesitant steps forward. The crew fell silent. 80 people watching a child approach a legend. Wayne set down his water cup. He took 2 steps toward the boy, closing the distance, making it easier. When he reached him, Wayne didn't crouch down to the kid's level. His knees couldn't manage that anymore. But he tilted his head slightly, that small acknowledgement that said, "You matter." "Talk to me." "Sir," the boy said, his voice barely loud enough to carry. "My dad said I shouldn't bother you. But I wrote you something. And my mom said..." "She said if I didn't give it to you, I'd regret it my whole life." Wayne glanced at the envelope in the boy's trembling hands. "Your mom's a smart woman." He took the envelope. Slowly. With both hands like it mattered. Because to the boy, it clearly did. "Thank you, son," Wayne said. Not the performative cowboy voice. His real voice. Quieter. Respectful. The crew expected him to tuck it away, promise to read it later, maybe sign an autograph. That's what stars did. That's the dance. But Wayne didn't move. He stood there under that merciless sun, surrounded by 80 people pretending not to watch, and he opened the envelope. Wayne didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He pulled out a single piece of notebook paper. Lined. Written in pencil in a child's careful handwriting. Wayne unfolded it and read. His face changed. Not dramatically. John Wayne didn't do drama. But something shifted in his eyes. His jaw tightened slightly. His shoulders, which had been carrying 69 years plus 40 pounds of costume leather, seemed to settle under a different kind of weight. He read the letter twice. The entire crew watched in perfect silence. The kind of silence that exists between breaths, when everyone is afraid to disturb something they don't fully understand but recognize as important. When Wayne finished reading the second time, he carefully folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and slipped it into the inside pocket of his vest. Over his heart. He looked at the boy. "What's your name?" "Daniel, sir." "Daniel. You wrote this yourself?" "Yes, sir." How old are you? 8.5. Wayne nodded slowly. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet, worn leather, held together with what looked like 30 years of use. He withdrew a business card. Not fancy. Just his name and a phone number, printed in simple block letters on cream cardstock. He held it out to the boy. Daniel, I want you to keep this. And when you're older, when you're a man, I want you to call that number. You understand? The boy took the card with both hands like it was made of gold. Yes, sir. Good. Wayne placed one large, weathered hand on the boy's shoulder. Just for a moment. A touch that said more than a speech could. Then he straightened up and turned to the assistant director. Let's go again. I'm ready. He walked back to his starting position near the saloon. The crew scrambled to reset. Cameras rolled. Wayne delivered his lines. The scene was perfect on the first take. But everyone noticed, he left his hand resting over the pocket where he'd placed the letter. Through the entire scene. Through 6 more takes that day. His hand kept returning to that spot, like he was making sure the letter was still there, like he needed to remember it was real. Away from the cameras, Wayne made a choice no one expected. That night, after shooting wrapped, Wayne didn't go back to his trailer. He walked to where the grip trucks were parked and found Daniel's father, a man named Robert Torres who'd been working film sets for 15 years, who'd never spoken directly to a star in his life. Mr. Torres, Wayne said, and the man nearly dropped the light stand he was securing. Mr. Wayne, I'm so sorry if my boy bothered you, he's not supposed to be. Wayne held up one hand. Stop. Your son didn't bother me. He gave me something important. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer me honestly. Robert Torres nodded, uncertain. The letter your boy gave me. Did you read it? No, sir. He wouldn't let anyone read it. Not me, not his mother. He said it was private. Between him and you. Wayne absorbed this. His mother. How is she? Robert's face changed. Fell. She's sick, Mr. Wayne. Cancer. The doctor said 6 months, maybe less. That's why we brought Daniel out here to the set. She wanted him to have a good memory. Something from before. He couldn't finish. Wayne was quiet for a long time. The desert night stretched around them, infinite and indifferent. Finally, what's your wife's name? Sarah. Where are you staying? The motel in town. The Desert Inn. Wayne nodded. Tomorrow night, after wrap, you and your family, Sarah, Daniel, anyone else, you come to my trailer. Not a request. An invitation. You come at 7. Bring Sarah even if she's tired. Especially if she's tired. Mr. Wayne, we couldn't impose. 7 o'clock, Wayne repeated. Gentle but absolute. Your boy did something brave today. I want to thank him properly. And I want to meet the woman who raised a child with that kind of courage. The next evening, as the sun bled orange across Monument Valley, the Torres family arrived at John Wayne's trailer. Sarah came in a wheelchair, thin and pale but wearing lipstick and earrings, the small dignities people maintain when they know time is short. Daniel walked beside her, wearing his cleanest shirt, his father's hand on his shoulder. Wayne answered the door himself. He changed out of his costume into simple civilian clothes, jeans, white shirt, boots. He looked smaller without the leather and the hat. More human. But no less himself. Sarah, he said, and took her hand like she was royalty. Thank you for coming. Your son wrote me something that I needed to hear. Please come in. The trailer was larger than most, a perk of being John Wayne, but still intimate. Wayne had set a small table with dinner, nothing fancy, just steak and potatoes and vegetables from the craft services caterer. But he'd set it himself, with cloth napkins and actual plates, not paper. They sat. They ate. Wayne asked Sarah about her life, about how she'd met Robert, about raising Daniel. He listened more than he spoke. When Sarah grew tired, he noticed immediately and shifted the conversation to lighter topics. Stories from old sets, harmless gossip about directors, the kind of talk that doesn't demand energy. After dinner, after Sarah and Robert had stepped outside to give him privacy, Wayne sat across from Daniel at that small table. "You want to know what was in the letter?" Wayne said. Not a question. Daniel nodded. "Can't tell you. That was between you and me. But I can tell you what it meant." The boy waited. "You wrote about your mom. About how she loves westerns. About how she used to watch them with her dad, your grandpa, before he died. About how she told you that the men in those movies, especially the ones I played, taught her what good men were supposed to be like. Honest. Brave. Men who did the right thing even when it cost them." Daniel's eyes were shining. "She did say that. And you wrote that you wanted me to know that she's brave. That she's not scared of dying, but she's scared of what happens to you and your dad after. That she's the best person you know, and if I'm half as good as the characters I played, I'd want to know about someone like her." A tear rolled down Daniel's cheek. "I didn't know how else to tell you. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding." Wayne reached across the table and placed something in front of Daniel. A small jewelry box. "Open it." Inside was a silver medallion on a chain. Simple. No inscription. Just polished silver with a small turquoise stone in the center, the kind of detail you'd find in a good western, authentic but understated. "That belonged to a friend of mine," Wayne said. "A stunt man who died doing what he loved. He wasn't famous. Nobody remembers his name except the people who knew him. But he was one of the bravest men I ever met. Not because he did dangerous stunts. Because every day he showed up and did his job with honor. He never complained. Never quit. Just did what needed doing." He paused, choosing words carefully. "Your mom is like that. The letter you wrote, you're 8 years old, and you already understand what most adults never figure out. Real courage isn't about gunfights or stunts. It's about doing the hard thing with dignity. Your mom is doing that right now. And you're doing it by being strong for her." Daniel picked up the medallion with trembling fingers. "Is this for me?" "It's for your mom. I want you to give it to her. Tell her it's from someone who respects what real bravery looks like. Tell her John Wayne said she's tougher than any cowboy he ever played. And when the time comes that she's not with you anymore, you keep that medallion. You wear it. You remember that you come from brave people." The boy clutched the medallion to his chest and cried the way children cry, completely, without shame, the kind of grief and gratitude that adults learn to hide. Wayne let him cry. Didn't tell him to stop. Didn't fill the silence with empty comfort. Just sat there, this weathered giant of a man, and gave the boy permission to feel everything he needed to feel. When Daniel finally looked up, Wayne said, "The card I gave you yesterday. You still have it?" Daniel nodded. "Good. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get older. You're going to become a man. And somewhere along the way, you're going to face something that feels impossible. A choice. A fear. Something where you don't know if you're strong enough. When that happens, you call that number. You tell whoever answers that you're calling for the Duke. And you'll get help. I promise you that. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." "Good boy." Sarah Torres died 3 months later. Daniel wore the medallion to her funeral. His father told him years afterward that in her final days, when the pain was worst and the morphine made everything hazy, Sarah would touch the medallion around her neck and smile. "John Wayne gave this to me," she'd say to the nurses. "He said I was brave." The production wrapped. The film was released the following year, The Shootist, Wayne's final role, about an aging gunfighter dying of cancer facing his end with dignity. The critics noted the raw authenticity in Wayne's performance, how he seemed to be playing something deeper than a character. He was playing a man who understood that real courage is how you face the end when there's no camera rolling, no audience watching, no script to follow. Wayne never spoke publicly about Daniel's letter. Never mentioned the Torres family in interviews. But people on that set remembered. They remembered the Duke stopping to read a child's words. They remembered him keeping his hand over his heart where the letter rested. They remembered him saying that real courage wasn't what happened on screen. But what followed would stay with everyone who witnessed it, forever. Daniel Torres kept the business card for 30 years. He became a teacher. Married. Had children of his own. And one day, facing a decision that felt impossible, he dialed the number. A foundation answered. Established by Wayne before his death in 1979. For families facing cancer. For children who needed hope. For people who just needed to know someone believed in them. "I'm calling for the Duke," Daniel said. They helped him. Just like Wayne had promised. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. The letter Daniel wrote was never published. Wayne took it to his grave. But before he died, he left instructions. The medallion he'd given Sarah Torres was to be returned to Daniel, along with a note in Wayne's own handwriting. It said, "Your mother was right. Good men do the right thing even when it costs them. You're one of the good ones. Keep going." Daniel still wears the medallion. And when his students ask about it, he tells them about the day John Wayne taught him that silence can be braver than words.